You feel out of control, but you're not. I know that might sound strange, because from where you're sitting right now, everything about your financial life probably feels like it's slipping through your fingers. Like, no matter what you do, no matter how many times you promise yourself this month will be different, something always goes wrong. The money disappears. The savings never happen, and you end up right back where you started. Maybe even a little further behind, staring at your phone, wondering where it all went. And the worst part? You can't even fully explain it. You're not buying yachts, you're not gambling, you're not doing anything that obvious. You're just living. Getting coffee, ordering food when you're tired, clicking buy on something that was on sale, saying yes to the night out because you needed it. And somehow, someway, every single month you end up with less than you expected, less than you need, less than you planned for. And then comes the guilt, that quiet, heavy guilt that sits in your chest when you check your bank account. That feeling like maybe you're just bad with money. Maybe you're irresponsible. Maybe you just don't have what it takes to actually get your finances together. Maybe everyone else has figured out something you haven't. But here's what I want you to hear before we go any further. That guilt, that story you're telling yourself about being undisciplined or irresponsible, it's not the truth. It's not even close to the truth. And by the time this video is over, I think you're going to feel something shift. Not because I'm going to give you some magic budget template or tell you to stop buying lattes, but because we're going to get to the actual root of why this keeps happening. And once you see it, you genuinely cannot unsee it. So let's start from the beginning. Let's start with the feeling. You know that moment when you open your banking app? There's always this tiny pause before the number loads. A half second of hope. Maybe this time it'll look different. Maybe this time you'll see a number that makes you feel okay. Safe. Like you're doing all right, and then it loads. And something in your stomach drops. Not because it's a disaster necessarily, but because it's less than you thought. It's always less than you thought. You did the math in your head, and somehow reality doesn't match what you calculated. Money moved in ways you didn't fully track. A subscription renewed that you forgot about. You spent a bit more on groceries than usual. You covered something for a friend. You needed something for the house. None of it was crazy. None of it was reckless. And yet, here you are looking at a number that makes you feel like you've failed somehow. And you haven't even gotten to next week yet. This is the loop that so many people are stuck in. Not a dramatic, catastrophic financial spiral. Just this constant, grinding feeling of being slightly behind, slightly stressed, slightly out of control, like you're always trying to catch up but the finish line keeps moving. You tell yourself you're going to be more careful this month. You download a budgeting app, you set a limit for eating out, you feel good for the first few days. Genuinely good. Optimistic even. You pack lunch, you make coffee at home, you say no to a few things, and it feels like this time, this is actually the time things change. Then Thursday happens, you're exhausted. You had a long week. Someone suggests going out. Or you're sitting on the couch and you see an ad for something you've been thinking about for weeks. Or you just open your food delivery app, not even to order, just to browse, and then suddenly you're 3 clicks deep into an order you didn't plan to make. And just like that, the momentum breaks. You don't even fully register it as a decision. It just happens. And then afterward comes that familiar feeling. Not quite regret, not quite shame. Something in between. A kind of quiet frustration with yourself. Why do I keep doing this? Why can't I just stick to the plan? Sound familiar? Good. Because that feeling you just recognized? That's not weakness. That's not a character flaw. That's your brain doing exactly what it was designed to do inside a world that was specifically built to work against it. And that's what we need to talk about. Let me ask you something. When you think about why you struggle with money, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Be honest. Most people say something like, I'm just not disciplined enough, or I'm too impulsive, or I don't have enough willpower, or maybe I just need to care more. That story is so common, so deeply embedded in how we talk about personal finance, that most people never question it. We assume that the people who are good with money just have more self-control, more willpower, a stronger resolve. And if we could just find some of that, we'd be fine too. But that story is wrong. Fundamentally, scientifically wrong. And I say that not to let you off the hook. I say it because the moment you stop blaming your character and start looking at the actual system you're living inside, everything changes. Because you can't fix something if you're blaming the wrong thing. If you keep thinking the problem is you, you'll keep trying to fix you. More motivation, more discipline, more guilt-fueled budgeting, and you'll keep getting the same results. But if you understand that the problem is your environment, your system, and your psychology working against you in ways you were never taught to see, then suddenly there's actually something to fix. Something real, something that works. So let me show you what's actually happening. Here's the truth about modern life that nobody really talks about when it comes to money. You are making an absolutely insane number of decisions every single day. And I mean insane. Some researchers estimate that adults make somewhere in the range of 35,000 decisions per day. 35,000. Now, obviously, most of those are tiny and automatic. You don't consciously decide to breathe or blink, but a huge number of them are real, effortful choices that drain your mental energy. What to wear, what to eat, how to respond to that email, whether to take this meeting or that one, what to say to a friend who's upset, how to handle a problem at work, what to watch, what to read, what to order, whether to go or stay, whether to spend or save. Decision after decision after decision, from the moment you wake up until the moment you close your eyes. And here's the problem. Your brain is not a limitless engine. It has fuel, and that fuel runs out. Every decision you make uses a little bit of that fuel. And as the tank gets lower, your brain starts looking for shortcuts. It starts defaulting to habits. It starts choosing whatever feels good right now over whatever is good for you in the long run. It starts saying yes when it should say maybe, and maybe when it should say no. This is called decision fatigue, and it is one of the most well-documented phenomena in psychology and one of the most ignored factors in personal finance. Think about when your worst spending decisions happen. Really think about it. Is it at 8 in the morning when you're fresh and energized? Probably not. It's usually at night, when you're tired, when you've been dealing with people and problems all day, when you've been making choices for hours and your brain is just done with thinking, done with calculating, done with being responsible. And that's exactly when you open your phone. That's exactly when the apps are waiting for you. The shopping apps, the food delivery apps, the streaming services suggesting just one more episode, the social media feeds showing you things other people have that you don't. All of it engineered, down to the pixel, down to the notification timing, down to the one-click purchase button, to catch you at your weakest moment and make spending feel effortless. Is that your lack of discipline? Or is that a billion-dollar industry specifically designed to extract money from tired humans? I think you know the answer. Now let's talk about something else that's working against you. And this one is a little uncomfortable to hear, but I promise it's important. Your brain loves dopamine. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter, a chemical messenger in your brain, and it's often described as the pleasure chemical. But that's actually a little misleading. Dopamine isn't really about pleasure. It's about anticipation. It's about the hunt. It's about the feeling you get right before you get something you want. And the modern consumer world has figured out how to hijack this system in ways that are breathtaking in their sophistication. When you scroll through an online store, even without intending to buy anything, your brain is releasing dopamine. The browsing itself is pleasurable. The possibility, the what if, the imagining what your life would look like with that thing, all of it lights up your reward circuitry. And then when you add something to the cart, a little more, and when you get to checkout, a little more. And when you hit confirm purchase, your brain gets a hit, a real chemical neurological hit. And then it fades, usually pretty quickly. And so you go looking for the next one. This is the dopamine loop. And it's not just shopping. It's every scroll, every swipe, every little notification, every little ping. Modern technology has essentially turned our phones into slot machines. Variable rewards, unpredictable outcomes, just enough positive reinforcement to keep you coming back. And slot machines, as you may know, are extraordinarily good at getting people to keep feeding them money. This isn't a metaphor. The psychological mechanisms are genuinely the same. So when you find yourself impulse buying something and then feeling hollow an hour later, that's not a moral failing. That's your dopamine system being manipulated by a machine that was designed specifically to do that. But wait, it gets even more interesting. Here's another piece of the puzzle. Habits. A massive portion of human behavior runs on autopilot. Like a genuinely massive portion. Some researchers suggest that somewhere between 40 and 50% of our daily actions are habits, not conscious decisions. Things we do automatically, driven by triggers and routines and environmental cues, without really thinking. Your brain loves habits because they're efficient. When something becomes a habit, it gets processed in a part of your brain called the basal ganglia, which operates largely outside of your conscious awareness. And this is great for things like brushing your teeth or driving home from work. But it becomes a problem when you've accidentally built habits around spending. Think about your triggers. When you're stressed, do you find yourself opening a shopping app almost automatically? When you're bored on the couch, does the food delivery app just sort of appear on your screen? When you get paid, is there a pattern where money flows out in specific directions before you've even consciously decided where it should go? That's not weakness. That's your basal ganglia doing exactly what it's supposed to do, following the pattern. Running the problem is, the program might not be one you consciously chose. And here's the kicker. You can't fight habits with willpower. Not really, not long term. Research consistently shows that trying to resist a habit through sheer force of will is exhausting and ultimately ineffective for most people. What actually works is replacing or redesigning the habit, changing the environment, changing the trigger, changing the routine. But again, Nobody teaches you this stuff. We're just told to have more discipline, try harder, want it more. And when that doesn't work, we blame ourselves. And there's one more psychological piece I want to add before we get into the practical stuff, because this one explains so much. It's called present bias. Present bias is the tendency for humans to place a much higher value on what's happening right now compared to what will happen in the future. Even if the future reward is objectively much bigger, if I offered you $10 right now or $20 in 2 weeks, most people would intuitively lean toward taking the 10 now. Even though waiting 2 weeks and doubling your money is obviously the smarter choice mathematically, your brain discounts the future. It sees it as fuzzy, uncertain, abstract. But right now is real. Right now is certain. Right now feels. And modern consumer culture is built entirely on exploiting this bias. Buy now, pay later, same day delivery, instant download, instant access. Everything is optimized to satisfy your present self and defer the cost to your future self. Your future self, the one who will deal with the credit card bill, the one who won't have savings when an emergency hits, the one who will feel stressed and stuck, is constantly being sacrificed for your present self's comfort. And again, this isn't a character issue. Present bias is universal. It's built into the human brain. It evolved for a world where there was no future to plan for, where survival meant acting now, getting food now, resting now, before the moment passed. Your brain is ancient. Your environment is not. The mismatch between your ancient psychology and your ultra-modern environment is the root cause of so much financial stress. Not your character, not your values, not your discipline, the system. Let me make this really concrete with a couple of examples. Because sometimes the theory is interesting, but you need to see yourself in a story to really feel it land. Meet someone we'll call Alex. Alex is 26, works a regular job, makes decent money, not rich, not poor. Just a regular person trying to get by. At the start of every month, Alex has a plan. Pay the rent, cover the bills, put some money aside, maybe save a little extra this month, and then life happens. Monday, Alex gets a notification from a shopping app. There's a 40% off sale on something Alex has been wanting for a while. Not needed, but definitely wanted. It's on sale though, so it kind of makes sense to buy it now, right? Save money in the long run. Alex clicks buy. $50 gone. Wednesday. Alex has a rough day. Work was stressful. The commute was brutal. All Alex wants is to sit on the couch and not think. But cooking feels like too much. So Alex opens the food delivery app. $30, including delivery fee and tip. Friday, there's a group chat. Everyone's going out. Alex doesn't really feel like spending money, but also doesn't want to miss out. Doesn't want to be the person who always says no. So Alex goes, one round of drinks leads to another, $80. Saturday. Alex is tired and a little guilty about Friday. To cheer up, Alex opens Instagram. An ad for a skincare product that looks incredible. The reviews are amazing. It's not that expensive. $35. And this pattern continues, not dramatically, not irresponsibly by any obvious measure, just steadily. Decision by small decision. And by the third week of the month, Alex is looking at a bank account that's nearly empty and trying to figure out where all the money went. Does Alex lack discipline? Or does Alex live in a world that sent 4 different, perfectly timed, psychologically sophisticated invitations to spend money in just 1 week? Now here's another example. This one is about budgets. Someone we'll call Jordan has tried every budgeting method. Spreadsheets, apps, cash envelopes. The 50-30-20 rule. Every few months, Jordan gets motivated, sets everything up, tracks spending carefully for a week or two, feels amazing about it, and then gradually it falls apart. The tracking becomes tedious. Life gets busy. 1 week slips by untracked, then another, and then the whole thing is abandoned until the next wave of motivation arrives. Jordan's conclusion? I'm not organized enough. I don't have the follow-through. But here's what Jordan is missing. Every single budgeting system Jordan tried required constant, daily, manual effort to maintain. Logging purchases, reviewing numbers, remembering limits, all of this on top of an already full life. Jordan wasn't failing at budgeting because of lack of willpower. Jordan was trying to use willpower to do something that a well-designed system could do automatically. Jordan was bringing a spoon to a knife fight. This is one of the biggest misconceptions in personal finance, that managing money is fundamentally a discipline problem, when in reality, the most financially successful people aren't more disciplined than everyone else. They just have better systems, smarter structures, environments designed to make good decisions the default, not the exception. And this brings us to the most important thing I want you to take away from this video. You don't lack control. Your environment is controlling you. Read that again. Sit with it for a second. Your environment, the apps on your phone, The layout of your bank account, the ease of one-click purchasing, the algorithm that knows exactly what you want before you do, the notifications time to hit when you're tired, the buy now, pay later options that hide the real cost, the culture that equates spending with self-care, all of it is shaping your behavior constantly, whether you're aware of it or not. You are not living in a neutral environment and failing to be disciplined enough. You are living in a carefully engineered environment that is specifically designed to make you spend money. And you have been trying to fight it with nothing but your own willpower, which, as we've established, is a limited and depletable resource. That's not a fair fight. And the shift I want you to make, the one that actually changes things, isn't about becoming a more disciplined person. It's about redesigning your environment so that the default behavior, the easy behavior, the no thought required behavior, is also the smart behavior. Because here's the truth. If saving money is difficult and spending money is easy, you will spend money. It's not about who you are. It's just how human psychology works. But if you flip that equation, if you make saving automatic and spending just slightly harder, something shifts. Not dramatically at first, but consistently. And consistency over time is everything. So let's talk about how to actually do that. The first and most powerful thing you can do is automate the money you want to keep before you can spend it. This is not a new idea, but I want you to really understand why it works on a psychological level, not just a practical one. When your paycheck hits your account and you see the full amount, your brain registers that as available resources. Your mental accounting treats it as money to be allocated. And willpower and intention will try to direct some of it towards savings. But intention is fragile. Life happens. The month gets away from you. But if you set up an automatic transfer on the day you get paid, the money leaves your account before you've seen it, before it's been mentally accounted for, before it's felt like spending money. It becomes something else entirely. It becomes something that just isn't there, and you live on what remains. This works because it bypasses your present bias entirely. You're not asking your present self to sacrifice for your future self every single month. You're asking your present self to make one decision once to set up the automation, and then your future self benefits automatically without any ongoing willpower required. This is called paying yourself first, and it's probably the single highest leverage financial habit that exists. Not because it's complicated, because it removes the decision. Start with whatever you can. Even if it's $20, even if it's 10, the amount matters far less than the habit of doing it automatically, because what you're building isn't just savings. You're building a new default, a new normal, a new story about who you are with money. The second thing is to reduce the number of financial decisions you make daily. Remember decision fatigue? The more choices you face around money, the more likely you are to make bad ones. So the goal is to reduce the number of those choices wherever possible. One practical way to do this is to create what I call a financial rule book, a small set of personal rules that cover the situations where you most often make impulsive decisions. Not a budget, rules. Simple, clear, non-negotiable. For example, I don't make unplanned purchases over $50 without waiting 48 hours. That's a rule. You don't have to make a judgment call every time you see something you want. The rule makes the decision for you. Or, I don't open shopping apps after 9 at night, because you know that's when you're most likely to buy things you'll regret. The rule eliminates an entire category of impulsive spending without requiring willpower in the moment. Or, I only eat out 3 times a week. Not once, not never. 3 times. A reasonable, sustainable limit that still gives you enjoyment but creates a structure. The key is that rules are different from intentions. Intentions are vague and flexible, rules are clear and consistent. And because you make the rule once, when you're calm and thinking clearly, you don't have to redecide every time a situation arises. The decision has already been made. This sounds simple. It is simple. And it works in ways that elaborate budgeting systems often don't, because it actually removes decision points rather than just adding more tracking. Third, add friction to spending. This one is counterintuitive but deeply effective. Your current environment makes spending as frictionless as possible. One-click purchase, saved card details, apps that open instantly, notifications that lead directly to checkout. Every barrier between you and spending has been deliberately removed. Your job is to put some of those barriers back. Delete shopping apps from your phone. Not forever, if you don't want, but remove them from your home screen. At minimum, the extra steps of re-downloading or searching for an app create just enough pause to interrupt the autopilot spending habit. Remove your card details from websites and apps that tempt you. Yes, it's inconvenient to retype your card details when you want to buy something. That's the point. That inconvenience gives your prefrontal cortex, the thinking, planning, self-regulating part of your brain, time to catch up with your impulse. And often, that pause is all you need. Unsubscribe from marketing emails. Not some of them, all of them. Every retail brand in your inbox is a recurring invitation to spend money you didn't plan to spend. The desire to buy something specific almost never starts with you. It usually starts with a trigger. Remove the triggers. Turn off payment notifications on your phone, or at least consolidate them. Constant reminders about your balance, especially when it's low, can actually increase anxiety and impulsive spending. Counterintuitive, but stressed brains make worse financial decisions. The goal with friction isn't to make your life difficult. It's to introduce enough of a pause that your decisions become actual decisions, not autopilot reactions. Fourth, build an awareness system that doesn't feel like punishment. A lot of budgeting advice is essentially about tracking every penny you spend. And the theory makes sense, but in practice it turns into a daily guilt exercise that most people abandon within 2 weeks. Here's a different approach. Instead of tracking everything, track one thing, the single number that matters most to you right now. Maybe that's your savings account balance. You check it once a week and watch it grow. That's it. One number. Positive reinforcement. Your brain gets a reward for saving rather than a punishment for spending. Or maybe it's your fun money balance. You designate a certain amount at the start of each month as freely spendable with zero guilt. When it's gone, it's gone. But while you have it, you spend it freely. No tracking, no logging, no judgment. This works because it eliminates the psychological cost of every purchase. You stop feeling guilty about every coffee or every impulse buy because you've pre-approved a certain amount of guilt-free spending. And paradoxically, many people find they actually spend less because the guilt and scarcity mentality that usually drives emotional spending is removed. The key principle here is that awareness without overwhelm beats detailed tracking you'll abandon. You want systems that give you enough information to make better decisions without turning your financial life into a part-time accounting job. Now, let's get really specific about what you can do starting today. Not next month, not when you feel more motivated. Today. The first thing to do today is this. Find one subscription you forgot about or don't use fully and cancel it. Just one. You don't need to audit your entire financial life right now. But pull up your bank statement or your email inbox and look for something, one thing, that's charging you automatically that you don't actually need. A streaming service you barely watch, a gym membership that became an expensive source of guilt, a software trial that converted to paid, an annual subscription you forgot was still running. Cancel it. This does two things. Practically, it frees up money, but more importantly, it does something to your sense of agency. It reminds you that you have power here, that there are things you can change. That action is possible. That small shift in feeling, from helpless to capable, is genuinely important. Because change doesn't usually start with a big dramatic decision. It starts with one small action that proves to you that action is possible. The second thing, set up or adjust one automatic transfer. If you have absolutely nothing going to savings right now, set something up. Anything. $20 a month if that's all you can do. The amount is secondary. What matters is the automation. Every month that money moves without you having to decide. And every month, your future self benefits from a decision your present self made once. If you already have some automation, look at whether you can increase it by even a small amount. Not dramatically, not to the point where it stresses your monthly budget. Just a small, sustainable increase. Third thing, pick one friction point to add this week. Which app do you most regret opening late at night? Which website do you most often buy things you don't fully need from? What? One change, removing an app, deleting a saved card, unsubscribing from a newsletter, would create just a little more space between your impulse and your action. Choose one. Do it now if you can. Don't wait until you've figured out your entire financial plan. Just pick one thing and make it slightly harder to spend money in that one specific way. These three things together, one cancellation, one automation, one friction point, take maybe 20 minutes to do. They will not solve every financial problem you have, but they will change your environment in small ways that compound over time. And more than that, they will change your story about yourself. You're not someone who can't control their spending. You're someone who's actively redesigning the environment that was controlling you. Now I want to talk about something that doesn't get said enough in personal finance content. And it's this. You are not behind. I know you probably feel like you are. I know when you scroll through social media and see people apparently thriving, going on trips, upgrading their apartments, buying things you dream about, it can feel like everyone else has figured out something you haven't, like you're perpetually playing catch-up. But here's the reality. Social media is a filtered highlight reel of people's lives, including their financial lives. The person posting about their vacation isn't showing you the credit card debt they went into to take it. The person showing off their new apartment isn't showing you the financial support they received that you don't know about. The influencer promoting a luxury lifestyle is often being paid to do exactly that. The comparison you're making between your full, complicated, messy financial reality and someone else's curated presentation is deeply unfair to you. And it's one of the most powerful drivers of the emotional spending we talked about earlier. You spend to feel better, to feel normal, to feel like you're keeping up, to give yourself a small reward in a life that sometimes feels like it's not rewarding you enough. And that's so deeply human and so understandable. But it's also a cycle worth seeing clearly, because the spending that feels like relief in the moment often creates the stress that makes you need relief in the first place. Breaking that cycle doesn't require you to stop caring about your quality of life or to deprive yourself of everything enjoyable. It just requires seeing the loop, recognizing when you're spending from a place of emotional need rather than genuine desire, and building just enough space between the feeling and the action to make a conscious choice. Not every time. Nobody makes conscious choices every time, but more often than before. A little more often every month. That's the entire game. Let me talk about something else that I think is really important. The relationship between financial stress and decision making. When we're stressed, anxious, or feeling like we have very little, something interesting happens in our psychology. Research by economists Senthil Mullainathan and Eldar Shafir found that scarcity, not just financial scarcity, but any kind of scarcity, actually reduces cognitive capacity. When your mind is preoccupied with not having enough, it tunnels. It focuses intensely on the immediate problem and loses the ability to see the bigger picture. This is called the scarcity mindset, and it creates a brutal cycle. You're stressed about money. That stress reduces your ability to think long-term and make good decisions. You make a slightly worse decision as a result. That worsens your financial situation, which increases your stress, which further reduces your cognitive capacity, which leads to another slightly worse decision. It's not a spiral of irresponsibility. It's a spiral of cognitive overload. That starts with stress. And this means that the first priority isn't always a detailed financial plan. Sometimes it's reducing the stress first, creating just a tiny bit of breathing room. A small emergency fund, even just a few $100s, that means one unexpected expense doesn't send everything crashing down, has a psychological value that far exceeds its dollar value. It removes the constant background hum of financial anxiety just enough that your brain can start operating a little more clearly. So, if you've been trying to build good financial habits while also living in a constant state of financial stress and barely making ends meet, I want you to know that the difficulty you've experienced isn't proof that you can't do it. It's proof that you've been trying to do it under genuinely hard conditions. And that matters. That context matters. Here's something I want to address directly, because I know some of you watching this are not just stressed about money in a general sense. Some of you are dealing with real financial difficulty, income that genuinely doesn't cover your needs, debt that feels suffocating, situations where the math just doesn't work, no matter how many decisions you optimize. And I want to be honest, the systems and psychological insights we've talked about in this video are powerful, but they work best when there's some margin to work with, when the problem is primarily behavioral and psychological, rather than purely structural. If you're genuinely struggling to make ends meet, if your income isn't covering basic needs, the answer isn't just better habits. It might also involve looking at income, finding resources and support, addressing debt strategically, or seeking help from financial counseling services that exist for exactly this purpose. I say this not to dismiss everything we've talked about, but because I don't want this video to feel like one more thing telling you that your very real structural problems are somehow your fault. Sometimes the system is genuinely failing people, and recognizing that is also part of understanding why you feel out of control. But for most of you watching this, the primary challenge is behavioral and environmental, and that means the solutions we've discussed, automation, friction, reducing decisions, building awareness, are genuinely accessible and genuinely powerful. Let's come back to the mindset piece for a moment, because I think this is actually the most important part. The information and the systems matter, but if you don't shift how you think about yourself and money, the habits will keep slipping back. Here's the biggest shift I want you to make. Stop thinking of yourself as someone who's trying to get control of their money. Start thinking of yourself as someone who's designing a life where good financial decisions happen automatically. That might sound like a subtle difference, but it's actually enormous. The first framing puts you in a constant battle with yourself. It assumes that the natural state is chaos and that you have to fight against it all the time. It's exhausting, and it creates guilt every time you slip. The second framing is about architecture, about building something, about making changes that last because they're built into your environment and systems, not dependent on your mood on any given day. You are not fighting your nature. You are working with it. Your brain wants to take the easy path. Okay, make the easy path the smart path. Your brain responds to immediate rewards. Okay, create systems that give you immediate rewards for good financial behavior. Your brain struggles with abstract future benefits. Okay, make the benefits of saving more concrete and more immediate where possible. You're not trying to become a different person. You're trying to build a better environment for the person you already are. And that, genuinely, is achievable. Not overnight, not without setbacks, but achievable. I want you to think about something. Imagine yourself 1 year from now. Not dramatically different, not with a completely transformed financial life, but just slightly better, slightly more stable, a bit more breathing room, a small but growing savings account, a little less stress every time you check your bank balance. That version of you exists. It's not a fantasy. It doesn't require a windfall or a miracle. It requires a series of small environmental changes that compound over time. The automation that saves money before you can spend it, the friction you added that interrupts the autopilot spending, the one rule you made that stopped a specific habit in its tracks, the subscription you canceled, the app you deleted. None of these things are dramatic, but each one changes the math slightly. And in personal finance, slightly better math, sustained consistently, produces dramatically different outcomes over time. That's the whole secret. Honestly, not discipline, not willpower, not some system you have to be perfectly organized to maintain, just small structural changes to your environment that make better outcomes the default. And here's the last thing I want to leave you with. You've been making decisions inside a system that was not designed with your financial well-being in mind. That system, the apps, the algorithms, the marketing, the culture, everything we've talked about, is sophisticated and powerful, and it has been working on you every single day without you fully seeing it. And the fact that you've been struggling is not evidence of weakness. It's evidence that you're a human being with a human brain trying to navigate an environment that's actively working against you. But here's what's also true. Now you see it, and you can't unsee it. The next time you feel that pull to spend, you'll have a word for what's happening. Decision fatigue, dopamine loop, habit automation, present bias, environment shaping behavior. You'll have a framework, and frameworks, even when you don't act on them perfectly, change how you experience things. They turn frustrating mysteries into understandable patterns. They replace guilt with clarity. And clarity is where change actually begins. You don't need to overhaul your entire life this week. You don't need to build the perfect budget or have all the answers. You just need to make one small change today that makes your environment a little more aligned with who you actually want to be. Cancel one subscription, set up one automatic transfer, add one small piece of friction between you and your most impulsive spending habit. Just one thing, and then tomorrow, or next week, one more thing. And slowly, quietly, your environment starts working with you instead of against you. And the money stops disappearing quite as fast. And the bank account check becomes a little less dread-inducing. And the guilt starts to loosen its grip. And you start to feel something that might be unfamiliar at first. In control. Not because you're a different person, but because you're living in a different environment. One you built, one that works for you. You were never the problem, the system was. And now you know how to redesign it.
Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you want to see results like these. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.